Good morning. I'm Jenna Wazorek. I'm a military spouse and realtor, and I'm joined this morning by Jonathan Mullins from Valor Home Mortgage. He is my BFF and VA loan expert. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to talk a little bit this morning about the difference between home inspection and a VA appraisal, and I get this question a lot from my clients. So I thought you and I could kind of dive into that today. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's get going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jenna, since you are the real estate professional, I wanted you to kind of add all the questions, answer all the questions regarding home inspection. So, what is a home inspection?
So a home inspection, first of all, is optional. I do recommend it to all my clients, even on new construction. It's a deep dive into the interior and exterior condition of your home. So it's going to look at things like your plumbing, your roof, your foundation. And we do that deep dive because, it's a really large investment you're about to make. So,
Great. Now, who typically pays for the home inspection?
so the home inspection is typically paid for by the buyer. And that is an out of pocket cost, which is why it's optional. But it's definitely, again, something we always recommend.
And what would you say the average cost is for a home inspection?
Um, in this area, the Savannah Hinesville area, I typically see anywhere between $300 to $500. The reason that varies so much is it's going to go off the square footage of the home. If your home is a slab or crawl space, are they offering military discounts? So there's typically a range there, but that's a pretty rough number that I see. I would say plan for 500 and then be surprised if it's cheaper.
Now, where would a buyer typically find a home inspector?
You can look online at reviews. You can ask in local Facebook groups. I have a list that I send my clients of preferred home inspectors. I've worked with these guys and gals. I love these people. This is who does my clients right. So I can give a list, but you can also, ask for recommendations and look online.
Awesome, awesome. When does a home inspection typically get done?
So you do your home inspection during your due diligence period, which is written into the contract. Anywhere between 7 and 14 days is what I typically see for due diligence and what we write in. And you do that because it's your inspection period. You want to get in there, vet the home, make sure everything's good, negotiate out any repairs, and then you can move forward with purchasing if you want to. Or if you're finding really big red flags on the home inspection and you guys can't come to a meeting of the minds with the seller, you have lost your inspection money because you're paying for a service, but you're not going to buy a house that has a lot of issues.
Awesome. Now, why would a military client or even a non-military client even get a home inspection? What's the value for them to make sure that they get a home inspection?
Yeah, so buying a home is probably one of the largest purchases you're going to make in your life. It's a lot more than purchasing a car. It's a huge investment. Your family's going to be in that house for however long you're stationed here. You want to make sure that the house is in good shape, safe shape, and that you're going to be able to sell it on the way out because you don't want to get stuck with a home with a lot of issues that you have to put money into. Um, so it's just, again, it's a large investment. Doing that deep dive, you want to make sure it's a safe house.
Awesome. Thank you for answering all of those great important questions that I get from a
Yeah.
lot of buyers.
Yeah.
So appreciate that.
So what I get on my side is, we had a home inspection. Do I have to have an appraisal? And the answer is, if you're on a VA loan, yes. So
Yeah.
we're going to ask you some questions about the appraisal side of it. What is a VA appraisal, or just an appraisal in general?
So a VA appraiser is where a licensed appraiser comes out that's part of the VA appraisal panel. The VA, when a lender sends out a appraisal order, the VA sends out the order out to a licensed appraiser in that market where the property is located.
Mm-hmm.
That appraiser then contacts the listing agent and sometimes even the buyer's agent to schedule a time to come out to the property.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they already have access to get into the property, and the appraiser goes out there to make sure that the veteran is purchasing a property at a reasonable fair market value right?
Right.
Based off of whatever said purchase price is, and also to make sure that the veteran is purchasing a property that is safe.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest things that comes up every now and then. It's not often, but it's one of the biggest things that real estate agents have and some clients have. Maybe they've heard through the grapevine that VA appraisals are challenging, which they're not. I mean, I see VA appraisals come in at value or sometimes even greater than the purchase price, more than conventional loans and even FHA loans. But the VA appraiser goes out there, inspects the property just like any other appraiser, whether it's conventional or FHA. They come out and look at the condition of the home, make sure that there's no unsafe things such as exposed wires, outlets where there's no plate covers over the outlets, things like that could potentially be a hazard to the veteran and their family. So that's particularly what a VA appraisal is to protect the veteran and also make sure they're purchasing a home that's safe and at a reasonable value.
Yeah, it's definitely for their good. When it comes to the appraisal, who typically pays for that?
Typically the buyer pays for it, in most cases, but in a lot of military markets, when you have a really good agent that has a solid reputation like you, Jenna, that they're able to leverage their negotiating power to go out there and find a good property, a good financial investment for the military buyer and get the seller to cover some, if not all, their closing costs, which would include the appraisal. Now, most lenders will take a deposit down for the appraisal. And in every state, the cost of a VA appraisal is different. So in the state of Georgia, the cost is $650 for a 1 to 4 unit. And then there's, I think there's some additional costs if it was manufactured, but don't quote me on that without looking at it because I work in 7 states, so it's kind of hard to, memorize all of them. But I know that the traditional fixed cost for a VA appraisal in the state of Georgia is $650.
Nice. That was my next question. What is the cost? And we kind of prep people for that on the agent side when they're talking about upfront costs when buying, having money for your home inspection, having money set aside for the appraisal, those things. And again, if you get closing costs covered, great. You're just kind of reimbursing yourself on the back end, but definitely have that money up front.
Yeah.
Okay. So when does an appraisal typically happen?
Well, every lender is different on whenever they decide to order the VA appraisal. The way that I like to do things is to protect the veteran. So I work closely with the buyer's agent to ensure that I know when the home inspection was done, that the home inspection came back clear, because I don't want to order an appraisal and have the veteran be at risk of spending $650 if there's issues with the home that could cause the contract to be terminated. So I typically, order it sometime after the home inspection is done or sometimes after the due diligence period has expired. But it also depends on the closing date. If we got to do a super fast close in like 15 days and the due diligence period is up to 10 days, I definitely will order it immediately after the home inspection is done, which the home inspection is typically done within 1 to 4 days after binding of a contract. So it's
just depending on the schedule, those good ones, sometimes they're booked out. But I do appreciate that about when you and I work together, because we do a lot, is that as soon as we've negotiated out everything, hey, we're good to order appraisal. So when you're in. And I love that aspect because I have worked before, a client came with a different lender and they order it immediately and they are going to be at risk. What if we find out the roof is in horrible condition and we're not going to pay for that? And the seller's not going to pay for that. And so we're moving on from this home. Not only have they spent money on a home inspection, but then they're being charged for an appraisal on a house that they don't even intend to move forward with. So
Yep. And once a lender orders the appraisal, it's very hard to it's very challenging depending on how long it's been since the date of order to get that canceled. And it doesn't, I've canceled some before, but a lot of times the VA appraiser will still charge for some of their work they've done. The VA allows them to charge for, so it could be from $50 to a few $100s that, if a lender orders an appraisal too prematurely throughout the process, that the military client would be at risk of losing if the deal canceled.
Right. And I do want to talk a little bit about the repairs. Every now and then we'll see a home inspection an appraisal come back, and it'll say, the value is great, but you need to fix this broken window or whatever. So I think a lot of people get confused between the home inspection and the appraisal because both can have repairs on it.
Mhm.
They're looking for things like chipped paint, rotted wood, like you were saying, exposed wires, broken windows, those kinds of things. And so the appraisal can come back with some repairs, right?
Yes, yes, and typically, again, when the VA appraiser goes out there, that appraiser is looking to make sure that the home is safe for the veteran, which is important because conventional loans don't care if the home is safe for the buyer. FHA
Right.
loans, their standards are similar or close to VA, but the VA appraiser is going to go out there and make sure that there's make sure there's a handrail if there's steps, right?
Right.
The
Hmm.
veteran can have a disability. Make sure there's no exposed wires because nobody wants to see a veteran or the family get electrocuted.
Hmm.
Or if there's any chipped paint, anything like that, the VA appraiser will notate that in the report. It will go back to the lender. The lender will then review those, send out the list to the buyer's agent and listing agent, and then that's typically negotiated between the
Hmm.
buyer and the listing agent who's going to cover make sure the seller covers the cost and
Right.
repairs and items. And then
Right.
what I like to do to potentially save the military client more money is because if there are MPRs, repairs that need to be made, then in most cases the lender will send out the appraiser to go back out there to
Hmm.
inspect, and make sure all those repairs were made. And that typically costs the military buyer, another $200. But what I like to do is help save that military buyer the money. If they're typically normal NPRs, nothing major,
Hmm.
like the new roof doesn't have to be put on or anything like that. I can get the underwriter to do a SAR cert where I just get the buyer's agent to send me photos
Right.
to show that those repairs have been done. And then I send it into the underwriter. The underwriter will then review and clear it and issue a SAR cert.
Right.
And that saved the military buyer $200.
Yeah. And it's great for everyone because it also saves on that timeline because, we
Yeah,
have.
yeah, it makes it a lot faster.
Yeah, and it's like, here's the pictures, it's done. You and I have done that before. I love that. So, basically, the difference is, coming to a conclusion. The home inspection is looking at the condition of the home. The appraisal is looking at the value of the home. Both
Yep.
are important. Both are going to be upfront costs to the buyer typically. And yeah, so I think that's pretty good. If any of you guys have any questions, you can drop it in the comments, and Jonathan and I can answer those. So
Absolutely.
thanks for joining me today, Jonathan. I always
Yeah.
appreciate your opinions.
Yep. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. And you rock, my friend.
All right, back at you. I'll see you next week.
Bye
Next
bye.
week we're going to be going over the difference between a mortgage lender and a retail mortgage broker. Did I say that right?
Yes.
See, even I as an agent need to know and brush up on those skills. So I'm looking forward to that one. We'll see you next week, Jonathan.
Yep. Appreciate you. Bye bye.
Bye.